Okay, hello and welcome to those of you who are on the live webinar. This is about why and how to fix the gut. And, you've probably heard many times you've got to fix the gut to have health. Health is in the gut. And even if you've done a lot of gut healing, I think you might still get some valuable information from this. I've talked to lots and lots of parents who said, I've done everything and I've tried this and I've tried that. And they haven't actually tried everything. They've tried everything they knew about. But then once you expand your awareness of what you know, then it's you go, oh, well, I haven't really tried that. So we will go over some things that what I promised you in the email was to go over what not to feed your child, what's part of the problem, why the brain is affected by the gut, and the domino effect that food and certain exposures has on the rest of the body, how interconnected things are. We'll go over actually, if you want to have another browser window pulled up eventually, we'll go over which supplements are going to help for certain cases. And I'll take you over to Full Script, where you can create an account if you don't have one yet. And you can actually maybe not place the order today, but you can actually choose which supplements you might want for your child. I'll go through supplement by supplement what could be helpful. And yeah, so we'll walk through that. All right, gut inflammation equals brain inflammation. Pretty much every child I see anywhere on the spectrum, and even kids without autism, maybe they have ADHD or sensory processing disorder, or even maybe dyslexia, there's brain inflammation. It tends to be a really big, well-known diagnosis of brain inflammation. Well, you can have cerebral encephalitis, I think it's called. It just means swelling or inflammation of the brain. And you can have PANS, and PANS stands for pediatric acute neuropsychiatric syndrome or symptoms. PANS is kind of a generalized microbe creating inflammation in the brain because there's usually some self-attack on the brain. And then the PANDAS part just has, it's specific to streptococcus. So we can have strep bacteria, and it's really easy to transmit this through hands and through food, just through breathing, and it gets in the respiratory tract, and it's easy to get up into the brain and create autoimmune issues. And then other microbes can do that. So that's just another type of inflammation, which a brain inflammation, which is not necessarily related to the gut, but if we had a really robust immune system, that probably wouldn't happen. Okay, so as I said, when we have gut inflammation, we're likely to have brain inflammation. And what can cause this? Well, pathogenic bacteria in the gut. And there's a nerve, a cranial nerve called the vagus nerve, and it goes from the base of this brain all the way down. It innervates our whole chest and abdominal area. So it's sending nerve signals and bringing back nerve signals from the lungs and heart and all of our digestive organs, spleen, liver, gallbladder, intestines, and also our reproductive and our kidneys. So there's this vagus nerve, and you may have heard of vagal tone or vagus nerve dysfunction. We want that to be operating. We want it to be operating, functioning well. And in a lot of our kids, it's not necessarily. But the reason I mentioned vagus nerve right now is because it's a highway. It's a super highway, and microbes there's research showing that microbes have been found to travel back and forth. So we can get microbes in our brain that come from our gut. And the pathogenic bacteria, or the bad guys in the gut, can also create all kinds of kind of chain reactions throughout the body. And then that leads to inflammation, and it can create leaky gut, which leads to food particles leaking out of the gut that shouldn't. And then that can get in the brain and create inflammation and gluten. And there's a couple of molecules from gluten and dairy. They're called gliadomorphine and casomorphine. So gliadomorphine comes from the gluten molecule, and it's like a morphine substance. So when we have morphine, that's usually helps us with pain, and it makes us feel good. So when we are breaking down these substances into gliadomorphine casomorphine comes from the casein molecule in dairy. When we're breaking those, when those particular molecules leak through the gut and then leak through the brain, it makes us feel really good, and we get addicted to those foods and we don't want to stop eating them. Pesticides and toxins that we consume on our food, and just, just through eating junk food, really. Radiation through our water. Radium naturally is found in groundwater. It's just a natural substance of the earth, and it is concentrated more near the coasts, near water, but also it can get in the gut and create inflammation and create other things, other problems. All right. And then some foods that we might be sensitive to, like the lactose in milk, some people can't digest, and that can create all kinds of inflammation. And then nightshades is one example of a type of food that, those are like potatoes, tomatoes. What else is in the nightshade family? It's not coming to me right this moment. Eggplant. Think ratatouille. That has a bunch of nightshades in it, and I love making that. Anyway, so these can all create inflammation in the gut, which can transfer to the brain, and we'll have inflammation there. And I want to delve into leaky gut a little bit, because I mentioned that, and one of the causes of this is yeast overgrowth, right? So yeast are like these little circular microbes, single-celled organisms. And they go into a phase where they produce hyphae. Hyphae are like legs or feet, or picture tree roots, right? Picture a seed just round and on its own, and then picture it growing roots. So these hyphae are a little bit like roots, and they can poke holes in the gut and open up that gut lining and let things leak through. So that's just one potential cause, right? Different bacterial overgrowth, which can mess with our mucous membrane, which can cause leakiness. Glyphosate, which is in Roundup, is really notorious for creating leaky gut. And I'll talk about that in the next webinar. By the way, I forgot to mention that as I was putting this together, I realized I have way too much information for just one webinar. So I'm going to do a part 1 and a part 2. This is part 1. We'll talk a lot about glyphosate and its far-reaching effects in the body just by eating Roundup sprayed food. I already talked about inflammatory or toxic foods, so this can be on an individual basis for people. And what I want to say is what to do to stop leaky gut. I mean, obviously, we have to change our gut microbiome. We have to get rid of parasites. We have to get rid of bad bacteria. We have to enhance our good bacteria. But also, let's stop putting in the things that we know create inflammation that can help create more calm. So if you've known anyone with irritable bowel disease or celiac, they cannot touch gluten. It will just create huge problems for them. And actually, gluten creates problems for all of us. It's just usually not at we don't notice it clinically. And what that means is you might eat gluten, and you might eat gluten, and I might eat gluten. And maybe I have a little brain fog. Maybe you have a little joint pain, and maybe you have nothing. We have a system that in our gut where these cells that line the gut will open and close, and they do that for a reason. We have to get immune system cells through this, so there's a controlled mechanism that that we actually need that's beneficial. But when we have the gluten, that just kind of rips those apart. It bypasses that system, so things can leak out. And the gluten molecules do different things in different people. It depends on where your weak area is. So there's gluten, to stop putting gluten. And, I always tell people, do a trial of 2 weeks, stop it, and then start it up again in 2 weeks and see how you feel. And a lot of times we don't notice how we feel when we take it away, but we certainly notice how we feel when we add it back in, all the, aches and pains and brain stuff. And your child may not be able to tell you that, but you might be able to see it through behaviors, through anger, or through constipation, or through other things. If you take the gluten out, you can resolve a lot of things. 80% of kids who went on, autistic kids who went on a gluten-free, dairy-free diet saw immediate, they saw changes. You can see changes within a couple days. So dairy is the other one I would say to stop putting in. I mean, this is going to be variable for some people, but conventional dairy, certainly. I find Europe has a much better, other countries have a much better, cleaner type of dairy. But here in the US most animals, unless you're buying organic grass-fed, they are fed with hormones, antibiotics, they're fed genetically modified grains, and what they eat becomes us. And most of the cows are sick and inflamed, and they don't let them live very long because they probably can't live that long. And they have inflammatory chemicals, and that gets passed on in the milk. I don't know that there's any tests that the FDA does to check for that kind of stuff. I've never heard of that. And then the other thing to stop putting in is sugar, because that's going to feed the bad bacteria. Artificial sweeteners, that does things chemically in the body with far-reaching effect. Certain additives, preservatives, colors, these can be brain excitotoxins and cause rashes and reactions in our kids and anger. So, just stop putting that stuff in. High fructose corn syrup is another one, but I think there's been enough awareness over the last decade or so that people are moving away from that. I mean, manufacturers are moving away from putting that in foods, but read your ingredients and check if that's in there. Bad fats like trans fats and hydrogenated fats, and I'll tell you a little bit later what the good ones are to put in. Fast food, these are high in sodium, low in fiber, and they just don't have nutrition. So if you're eating at McDonald's or Burger King or Carl's or Chick-fil-A or whatever, name your favorite fast food, Taco Bell, it's really food devoid of nutrients, and it's kind of like putting more toxins in the body. So you might as well dump a load of motor oil or sludge in your yard or whatever. It's just, maybe if you have an image like that, you won't let your kids eat that stuff, or your partner won't, or whoever's doing that. So I think about chips with bad fats, cookies, crackers, protein bars are notoriously sneaky, because they tell you it's good for you, but they tend to have high sugar. So, even the organic ones have brown rice syrup and sometimes like coconut sugar, alternative forms, but it's sugar. So you look at the number of grams from sugar in the product. And a lot of protein bars also will have whey protein or pea protein or one of these proteins, and it's not organic. It's really hard. I've really looked in the health food stores to find a protein bar that's low in sugar and also uses organic ingredients. So again, if you have a protein bar that has pea protein, it's usually sprayed with Roundup before harvest. If you have a protein bar that has whey protein that's not organic, you have the situation of the cow I just explained. Energy drinks can be really loaded with chemicals and colors as well, like Gatorade, Red Bull. Now, I know you're not going to let your little kids drink that stuff, but older teens, it's really hard to control them and say that's not good for you, but it's not. And as I mentioned, the effects of leaky gut, it affects the brain, but it also can create body-wide inflammation. It can create joint pain. I had a 13-year-old boy one time who told me he felt like he had things moving around his skin. I think it might have been parasites, but it can also be any inflammatory chemical. That's anything that leaks from the gut and creates inflammation elsewhere. And this leakiness and these chemicals can create imbalances in our neurotransmitters and addictions, like I mentioned before, to the gluten and dairy, because of the gliadomorphine and casomorphine molecules that feel like morphine and make us feel good. It's like giving your kids drugs. Yeah. All right. And then if the gut barrier is leaky, usually the brain is, because it has the same kind of system, the same cellular system to let toxins out and to let nutrients in. But if that's leaky, then it's not working well, right? It's not doing its job keeping the bad stuff out, and it's not doing its job letting the good stuff in, typically. And one of the things that disrupts the blood-brain barrier is aluminum. So if we're exposed to aluminum, either in injections or from breathing it in the air, or maybe it's in water or food or whatever, baking powder can have aluminum. So these are things to watch out for, and what create leaky brain. And then when we have this leaking phenomenon going on, whether the gut or the brain or both, there's a domino effect. Well, let's just talk about the gut. If we have bad bacteria in the gut, there's a whole domino effect throughout the rest of the body. We talked about some of that, but the bacteria, the bad guys will produce certain chemicals, and then the good guys aren't hardy enough. There's not enough of them to produce the good chemicals we need. So some of the bugs in our gut, bugs meaning microbes in our gut, produce vitamin B12, which helps us think better. Some of them, help us with minerals and other vitamins, and produce neurotransmitters. They produce the chemicals, what are called precursors. So the things our body uses to make neurochemicals. And so we can have these neurochemical imbalances. And the result of that is you might see high anxiety, right? Because we have a high exciter in the brain, but we don't have enough to calm the brain. Or you can see moodiness, depression, anger, because we don't have enough serotonin, which is our feel-good molecule. The lack of attention and focus is a dopamine imbalance. Oftentimes kids will have pain in their head, and they're banging their head because that probably feels better than what's going on in there. And that's inflammation, and neurochemistry is involved in that as well. We see anger outbursts, and sometimes, even kids are having delusions. So I want to emphasize that we are a holistic organism. You are, I am, your child is. Everything inside is interdependent on everything else, and it works together or it doesn't. So when we go to the pediatrician and they say, oh, your child has autism, it's a brain, it's a neurological thing. No, it's way more than that, because our brain is interacting with our hormones, with our gut, with the whole rest of the body all the time. The function of an enzyme inside the cell is dependent on what is available coming from our digestion, from the gut, from what we put in as food. So if your child doesn't have the right nutrients in the food that they're eating, either because they don't have the opportunity to eat it, they won't eat it, then maybe that particular mineral isn't going to get inside the cell, and a particular enzyme for a biochemical reaction isn't going to work. And I know we see ourselves as whole, but if we look at almost the tiniest level inside the cell and our molecules, that's really where all the action happens. That's where the biochemistry happens. That's where we make proteins to build muscles. That's where we make energy for our cells to do all this other work. That's where we recycle things that, let's say we hurt ourselves, we have a cut, and we're going to use a lot of energy to have a recycling function and say, okay, just like you do in your house, right? This paper we can reuse, or this cardboard we could reuse for a project, but this other stuff goes away. So our body has a similar function in recycling, and that all happens inside the cell. That's where it starts. All right. So these microbes, the good guys in the gut, can be killed by any number of toxins, including Roundup, glyphosate, which is in Roundup. And I'll really delve into that in part 2 of this webinar. But other pesticides, chemicals in your house, in your detergents, the clothes we put on our bodies, the air fresheners, the potpourri, the, incense sticks, the new car smell, the little tree deodorizer in the car, all of these are fake chemicals that we can inhale, and they can get in our bodies, and they can affect our gut microbes, because what happens when we inhale, all that stuff is going to eventually be filtered by the liver, those toxins, and then go into the gut. So really, this is kind of, our gut is sort of the garbage bin a little bit for the toxins through the rest of our body. And so we're diminishing the good guys, and kind of the gang members, the fighters, the bad guys are like, yeah, we rule the gut here. and so you have these kind of gangs that won't let the other, like the little wimpy small good guys, right? The valiant ones, won't let them grow. And partly the bad guys feed off these toxins, right? So that's one of the reasons. So your good guy gut microbes don't really have a territory in there, or it's really diminished. And then that can cause diarrhea, constipation, and then produce all these bad chemicals that float throughout the body and into the brain. And I see again and again that when we pull these chemicals out in the gut, usually using binders, but we make sure we're all pooping and we're pulling these out with binders, all the behavior is just, there's just so much more calm in the body because we're pulling stuff out of the brain and out of all over the body. It's not getting recirculated. So my emphasis about this holism and the gut and the brain is that if one thing is out of balance, the gut, then everything else can really get out of balance really fast. And the body tries to correct this. We have an innate intelligence in the body. We know how to heal. Our body is made to heal. But it may borrow, if I can use the expression, borrow from Peter to pay Paul, right? If you don't have the right nutrients, you pull them from somewhere else. And this happens, for example, with bone loss, right? If we don't have enough calcium for the rest of the body, our body's like, oh, we'll just take it out of the bones. And then the bones get fragile. So this is what I mean by this concept of taking it from one organ to another to be satisfactory. And so you're always kind of borrowing, kind of like our government, and then we're in debt. All right. What do we want to do to help shift this dynamic? We want to stop putting the toxins into the body, and I'll go over those again. We want to change the diet. Easier said than done, especially with picky eaters. But if your child is not eating fruits and veggies, you can use lettuce in smoothies. And there's also a product called Juice Plus. I forgot about this for years. And then someone reminded me, Juice Plus is a powder that's just powdered vegetables and fruits. And it can get the palate, the taste bud, if you start with a little amount and build up, it can get the palate used to what these good fruits and vegetables actually taste like, and the chemicals in those, the different molecules in those. So let's see, we want to put out the fire in the gut by stop putting the bad foods in, which are gluten, dairy, possibly for many people, sugar and artificial ingredients like additives, preservatives, sweeteners, dyes, high fructose corn syrup, the bad fats that I talked about, trans and hydrogenated fats, fast food we talked about, and all those snacky, crunchy, processed foods, cookies, crackers, protein bars, things like that. Read your ingredient labels. So what to eat instead. I covered this, I think, in the last webinar or one of my previous ones. So I'll just give a general list. Fresh organic fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds like chia, hemp, sunflower, pumpkin seeds, organic meats, organic eggs, organic butter if you're doing dairy. If not, ghee, that's dairy-free. Good fats like coconut. And as I said, butter or ghee is a good fat. Also, some lard and like goose fat is really, really healthy, but it should come from, an organic source. Olive and avocado oils are very healthy, but I'm just reading more and more about how these are adulterated or other fats are mixed in with them. And they are like the ones you get at Costco, which I have. And I'm like, oh, should I keep using these? I've just been reading how they have other bad fats added and they're not pure. So if you're going to buy olive oil or avocado oil, like get some assurance that it's pure. If it is, they'll say on the, like, that would be a great marketing tool, right? They would say on the bottle. So virgin pressed or virgin oil, coconut oil from California would be a good oil, right? A lot of them from overseas. I don't know if they mix other things in them. So I'm always cautious about that. And besides foods, we can use supplements as acute remedies. So what does this mean? Like I talked about how the neurotransmitters are messed up and there's inflammation. So we can use supplements to help with this while all those changes are being implemented with diet, because it takes a while. So I am going to right now show you the supplements. I'm going to put in the chat box. This is the link to, oops, I put the wrong thing. Just a second. Oh, there we go. Chat box. All right. FullScript is an online supplement store that they've vetted the manufacturer. So if you buy something on Amazon, it could be the real thing, but it could be a fake store made in that name. And people are really great at copying that. Oops, I think I didn't send that to everybody. Let's do that chat again, or that. Thanks, Carmi, for putting that in. So if you want to click on there, I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to take you over there and show you what is good. So once again, FullScript is an online supplement store, doesn't impersonate anyone else. And when you sign up on, practitioners have an account there. This is how I let my clients buy supplements, practitioner grade, without having to sign up for every single supplement company. And when you sign up under my account, you'll get a 10% discount on everything. So what I want to start with is, we'll start with gut healing. And what I recommend we do here is, I'll show you, oops, we don't want that. I'll show you. So you will create an account, and then let me get my catalog. So you can search for these things in the catalog. You may be able, I am in my practitioner account, so I have protocols in here. Okay, now it's not working. There we go. So I can see under mine protocols. So I don't know if you can see protocols, and this is where I'm going with these. All right. The first one is going to be gut healing. Now, I want to say you don't want to order all of these. You don't want to get all of these. Okay. These are examples of what can help, and I'll tell you what can help for what situation. And then you can make either an educated guess, ask your practitioner, ask someone trusted that you can set up a nutrition consult with us. Carmi, you want to put the nutrition consult order form in the link in the chat. So glycine, I love using glycine. Okay. It's been kicking me out. So I'm just going to go in this way. All right, we'll start at the bottom. Glycine, well, I'll talk a lot more about this next time when we talk about glyphosate. It's very healing to the gut is what I'll say right now. And then I like probiotics. So I really love Therabiotic Complete by Claire. And the reason I love this is it has a lot of different probiotics, and it may be the right one for your child. It may not. Usually when I'm testing people, it's either the Claire Therabiotic or the Megaspore from Microbiome Labs probiotic. So it's usually one or the other that tests well. And it's rare that I get someone who doesn't test well for either one of them, but it happens. Your child may need something different, but these are good, like overall starting ones. Mega Pre is also from Microbiome Labs, and it has a prebiotic in there, so it's going to feed those gut bugs. Mega IgG does not test well for everyone when I use this for my clients, but they're small immunoglobulins, and what those do is they help change that inflammation and the dialogue with the immune system inside the gut. And again, I wouldn't say go out and get all of these right now. I would say, do a little, sit with it. Like maybe you have a gut feel for what might work for your child. Maybe you have someone who can test for you. Maybe you muscle test. Mega Mucosa is one that helps build the gut lining, which is really, really helpful for a lot of people. There's that Therabiotic, that other probiotic, and then the glycine. And then I'll probably have to, what I'm going to do? I'm just going to go into the other protocol here. So the other one I wanted to share with you was things that help for sleep. So this is also related to the gut. And there's a protocol in here, Pharma-GABA. That's a calming neurotransmitter. It helps combat any excitotoxins like glutamate and MSG, if that's in any of your foods. and like artificial colors or dyes. So this might be an antidote to that. And these help calm the brain for sleep. And you can give them during the day too for calm. Melatonin liposomal spray. This is from Da Vinci Labs. And you can just go ahead and type into the catalog and pull that up. And what you can do is you can click add to your cart, and then you don't have to get it all. You can go review your cart later and then eliminate things. But this melatonin helps with kids going to sleep. It could be really helpful for middle of the night wake up kids who are up for hours. Give them a little more shot of melatonin. Brain Boost is a magnesium that crosses the blood-brain barrier. It's a form of magnesium that will help calm the brain and help with lots of biochemical reactions. I personally love these Insomnitol chewables, which are from Designs for Health. They personally help me sleep. They have different ingredients in them. I love theanine serene as well. It's a combo of herbs, and it might have GABA. I'm not remembering off the top of my head. This is another liposomal formula from Quicksilver. It's just a different company. And then I recommend for everyone, this is a binder. So GI Detox is a binder that has lots of different types of binders in it that'll pull out lots of toxins from your child's body. It has a little bit of aloe vera, which should combat constipation, but I think everyone should be on binders all the time. All right. So you can look at those, and then constipation. So I think constipation is the source of many of our kids' behaviors, right? And that's, of course, a gut issue. Natural Calm is a combination of calcium, magnesium. You can just get the magnesium. It comes in a powder that kind of fizzes, or you can get gummies, which do have sugar. So I would stay away from that. But some kids will take gummies and they don't like the powder. It's up to you what your child likes. Oxy powder is amazing. It's also a form of magnesium that just blows out the gut. It can be a blowout, and you don't need 4 capsules. That's a lot. You want to start with a half a capsule or 1 capsule. If you have half a capsule, if you have a little one. And then I put GI Detox in here again for constipation, because that's going to help pull out toxins that also might be contributing to constipation. And this Colon RX is a combination of herbs and stuff that you can take at nighttime. In my protocols, when we do drainage and detox, we use other things, but these aren't on full script. These are easier to get and equivalents. And what might work for one person might not work for another person. So keep that in mind. And let's go back to my notes, and I'm going to see if I need to tell you anything else. Yeah, there were a couple more that I wanted to share. So let me pull those up, and then I will share those with you. All right. So these are helpful for neurotransmitter production, and there are other things that are helpful. So super serotonin, it has 5-HTP. These are chewables. This is from Spectrum Awakenings, and it has 5-HTP in it, and that's 5-hydroxytryptophan, and that's a precursor to serotonin. So it helps if your microbes in your gut are not producing serotonin or the precursors for serotonin, you get them in a supplement, right? That's the idea there. And Temper Tamer has some herbal formula. It's different herbs, and this can help with calming the temper, but by calming the brain. So these herbal and amino acid and precursor, these supplements, it's really an acute short-term solution. And it can really help if, like, you just want an immediate solution, right? You want immediate help. It can be awesome. And for a longer term solution, I would actually say yes, stop putting the toxins in, but also start pulling them out in the right way, in the right order. And maybe you've heard me talk about this before, but we have to open up the colon first, and then we have to do some work on the liver because that's pretty overwhelmed at this point. If our kids are not detoxing well and they're holding on to things, partly it's liver issue, partly it's lymphatics. We have to get the lymphatics moving. And the last place for toxins to leave or to drain is the brain. And if we're clogged up here in our lymphatic channels along the neck, if we're clogged up here in our lymphatic channels, I sat with someone the other day who was very puffy in here. So her lymph is congested in here and it's probably downstream, right? So we're going to drain going downward because gravity does that. And then we're going to put everything in our liver. So if you take your hand and you put it right where your right side ribs are, so you can feel your rib bone, your last rib bone, you put it right on that bone, your liver's right under your hand right now, and your gallbladder is kind of right under your fingers within the liver. So this is the area that needs work. If your child is sensitive here, it could be colon constipation, but it could also be liver inflammation. So what we want to do is clean up from the bottom up and then pull toxins out all the way down. And that's what our Jumpstart program, that's what our Transforming Autism programs are, where we go through that in a very systematic way. All right, that's it for today. And I am going to look at the chat and see if we have questions. And you are welcome to raise a hand, raise your digital hand to ask questions, or type into the chat. Let's see. I'm going to go in the order I got them. Sabrina, is apopectin a good safe binder to start with? And if taking prescription meds, how do you time binders so not to affect meds like seizure meds? That's a really great question. Thank you for asking it. Apopectin is a good safe binder, and it only binds certain things, right? It's not going to get heavy metals or certain, I think, microbial toxins. So we have different binders because they have different purposes. They're going to bind different things. So it's a good one, but it won't have the whole range of binding. And I think with any binder and any supplement, if your child's on medication, you want to wait 2 hours away from any medication, even to give herbal remedies, just to be safe. Because herbal remedies, we started our pharmaceutical industry with plants from nature, with herbs. So they do have an effect and they do make a difference. So we want to make sure those are separated. Same with binders. Good question. If I have an account through other practitioner already, how do I view your account? Emily, I think you have to create another account is my guess. I think you have to log out of your other account and then go to just the full script homepage or the page that I gave you. And I don't know if if it automatically logs you in, but you can create an account under me. Maybe you figured that out by now. That was 10 minutes ago you asked. Sabrina, we have avoided probiotics for 5 years on Nemechek protocol. As Dr. N says, no probiotics. Gets confusing to know what is best. I know the Nemechek protocol and I know why he does that. And most practitioners will say, do my protocol, don't do anything else. Because they want a true assessment of how their protocol is working with your child. So I understand why he does that. And I understand why he says no probiotics. But I actually personally feel that probiotics are necessary. I understand what he's doing, but and Sabrina, my question to you would be, have you seen changes on the Nemechek protocol? Some people see amazing changes because what you're doing is you're putting pure olive oil in your child and pure fish oil, and that's helping to rebuild all the cell membranes, which helps everything. So I think some people see faster progress on that protocol. Some people see slower progress. The other thing you put in is a prebiotic, so you're already feeding the microbes that are in there. But what if you have a mix of really bad bacteria and low good bacteria? And yes, you're feeding them with a prebiotic, inulin, I think it is. What are you feeding? I think we also need some reinoculation. And my sense is he says that also because he's afraid, I think there's a concern that people might get small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, so it might not move through. But I don't remember if that's exactly why. Okay. Carmi, I hope you answered Sabrina's question on getting into the Facebook group. Yeah, maybe Carmi, you want to put our Shifting Autism Behaviors Facebook group link where anyone can join. It's a private group and all of the recordings will be there. All of our webinar recordings, including today. Can these supplements be used if being treated for Crohn's disease, also taking Stelara for the Crohn's disease? Nija. So I'm not familiar with Stelara. It sounds like a pharmaceutical drug. And so I don't know what its mechanism of action is. So I don't know. I was going to say I would ask your doctor, but they probably won't know about any of these supplements. Probably, and what I would say is take them at least 2 hours away, especially any herbal ones. And so for your child who's on the Stelara, I would say he or she probably needs a good parasite cleanse. Moscow says, do they have supplements without some of the herbs? Example, chamomile, bay leaves. My child has autism due to seizures, and some herbs are known to trigger seizures. There are probably lots and lots of other types of supplements. You're welcome to browse around in FullScript and see if they have something that doesn't have the herbs, because I don't know all the interaction herbs for seizures. They probably do. And what I would suggest you do, Moscow, is search in FullScript under Douglas Labs. So it's a company, and they are very specific for autism. So they have good formulations. I don't know if they have the herbal ones. And then I would also search under Seeking Health. That's Dr. Ben Lynch's supplement company. And so Seeking Health, they have really good formulations that tend not to have other, things that would interact with the body negatively, but I don't know for sure. Okay, Christian, I'm going to take your question. Go ahead.
Unmute. Hello. More than a question, just kind of add a couple of things. I've been following you for a while now, and I've listened to quite a few of your podcasts as well. While I've been in the bath and stuff, the only time we get to ourselves. And my son's got something called EOE, eosinophilic esophagitis, and was diagnosed a couple of years ago.
I didn't quite catch it.
It's EOE, which is eosinophilic esophagitis.
Eosinophilic esophagitis. Yes,
that's it. It's
where the esophagus is inflamed.
Indeed, and he has that dysphagia sort of lump feeling in the throat. So we've kind of taken things. It's been a bit of a long journey and a road over the last sort of couple of years. And I was lucky enough to find a good nutritionist, and we've worked slowly, but because of reflux, it's been, such a slow process to get his body to tolerate anything without it triggering the reflux, because his body obviously sees so many things as a threat. So I just wanted to say that I've been sort of following you for quite a long while, and there's been things that I have done that you have suggested, and in your email about the stomach massage, been doing that last week. And just for anybody else who thought about trying it, he'd usually go to the toilet every other day, and we had, for the first time in quite a long time, 5 days in a row. So just kind of backing up stuff for 5
days in a row, pooping or not pooping?
Yeah, pooping.
Yay.
Yay. So I've been massaging his stomach 3 times a day.
Awesome. I just want to pause for a second, and what Christian is referring to is, I'm not sure is that your name?
Yes.
Okay. What Christian is referring to is a colon massage that we put out not long ago. Carmi, would you put the blog post for the colon massage so people can grab the link, just so, because she's, speaking highly of it. So yes. So thank you, Christian. I'm glad that's working.
That's okay. He's been wheat and dairy free now for a couple of years, and we're kind of adding all the things in. So he's on his sort of pre and probiotic. He's on berberine, and we've recently got him to tolerate a vitamin C liposome, which is great. We've finally found a multivitamin that he can tolerate as well.
Mm-hmm.
Magnesium he can't seem to tolerate. With 3 times we've had a go with that, but so just what's in the multivitamin at least is something
Yeah.
now. And he's a far more healthier boy than he was a couple of years ago.
Well done, Mama.
I also watched your video on craniosacral therapy as well. So I then dove in and sort of found an online course on that. So I've been having a go on that. So although I'm not joined in any way, and obviously I'm under my nutritionist, just because it's so specific that I feel like I have to kind of follow her lead
So
and go
can I
see.
tell you something that might
Yeah.
be helpful?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt, but I like
No, it's fine.
I'm just jonesing to tell you this. So
Yeah.
ask your nutritionist. So one of the
Yes.
things we do in our program is we get the parasites out, which are like, I see them as like big black garbage bags that hold the other trash and toxins and microbes in the
Yep.
gut. So talk to her about doing a parasite cleanse, and this eosinophil this esophagus problem
Yep.
is
Yep.
can be parasites sitting up there. I've
Right.
had great success getting rid of that. And then also, you're probably doing something to work on liver and gallbladder, but his bile's not flowing. I can tell just from what you say.
Yes.
His bile's not flowing.
She does a herbal mix of berberine, chamomile, licorice, milk thistle.
Yeah.
He's on also, and I can't pronounce it. You can tell this. I'm really bad at pronouncing things. Glutathione,
Glutathione.
glutathione liposome. So he's on that. So we did a comprehensive stool test as well a while ago. That was a small fortune, and no parasites did show on that.
They never do. They don't.
They never do.
It's very rare because they degrade before they
Okay.
get there. I mean, I've had clients tell me they purposely put a parasite in there and it came back negative. So, those are very, we'd love to see what's in there, but it's not going to catch everything. Any diagnostic test is going to be a moment in time of your child, whether it's a blood draw, urine, or stool. It's going to be a moment in time. And then if you give them, however much stool, it's 2 inches in the tube of stool, how much are they going to take and test? They're not going to test that whole 2 inches of stool. So it, it depends on where things lie. All I want to say is, you have to take the diagnostic tests with a grain of salt. So I know, like, I hate that people have to pay a small fortune for it, and it doesn't always come back accurate. But, I just what you're saying, just in my experience of 10 years of working with people, screams parasites.
Is there anything, is there anything that like a name of something? Obviously I'm in the UK, but would there be a name of something that I could look up?
It's not like giving you one thing. So this is, what our webinar talked about today was kind of acute. How do you help with the, the behavior changes, like putting more serotonin in or helping with the gut? But actually, restoring health is quite a process. It's a longer process because that's just the way the body works. You can't detox, you can't take a pill and get rid of these parasites in a day. There are some pharmaceuticals that will get rid of parasites, but then you have to deal with the aftermath of them exploding in the gut and the toxins. So in our program, we take this one step at a time, slowly, in the right order, so that we don't have those big detox reactions. So while I'd love to tell you, here's the magic pill, there isn't a magic pill.
Yeah, no, I just wondered if there was a particular herb. I was also on Uva Ursi as well, because we found that he did have Pseudomonas.
Yep. So that's,
which I didn't want to treat with any kind of antibiotic for sure. So
So
he's
for
on
you,
either
Christian,
ERSI for that.
yeah. So we're going to need to wrap up because I have a bunch of other
Yep,
questions
no
and we
problem.
have 8 minutes. But for you, you go back to your
Yep.
nutritionist and say, let's think about parasites, even if they didn't show up on the test. Let's think about,
Okay.
you know, doing some kind of cleanup protocol. And I'm so glad that the massage is working. Keep doing it. In our program, we have other physical manipulations and massages, and then you're doing the craniosacral, which is awesome. So you're doing really great stuff. And thank you for
Yes, it's kind of,
speaking up.
yeah, slowly
Yeah,
getting there,
it happens
slowly.
slowly. That's what
And I
happens.
will continue to watch and listen.
Great. All right.
Okay,
Thanks
thank you
for
very
being
much.
here. Okay.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Mary, is that Mary
Oh,
Beth?
yes. Okay. Hi.
Hi.
You know, another thing, just mentioning things that bother the gut. I was diagnosed with fructose intolerant. I can eat sugar, which is not good, regular sugar, but fruit, anything with fruit. So that might be something for people to look into. Weird.
Okay.
Doctor
Yeah,
told me it was the new kid on the block. Yay me.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's the immune system, you know, misbehaving.
Right.
That's
I
your
believe it.
system misbehaving. Yeah, we sometimes like I work on things like that with NMT, with neuromodulation technique, because what we're doing in that process is we're just saying, hey body, look at this mistake, look at these mistakes you're making. This is the way your innate intelligence know, this is the way you were born to do it. Can we switch back over? It's kind of like, you know, resetting your phone back to a previous iterations because you're getting rid of all the bugs. So
Right.
yeah, that's one of the things. That's how I started in the health, you know, realms, to get rid of those kinds of allergies. But thank you for mentioning that.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, I'm going to go back to the chat and see what other questions we have. What was the order to detox again? I think I heard colon, then liver, then lymphatic. Yes, Courtney, that is right. Ashley May, for constipation, should I look at supplements under gut healing? I think I have, let me double check that that's what I put it under. Yes, let me just look. Yeah, that's where we had all the probiotics and stuff. Maybe you found it by now. JW, what anti-parasitic supplements do you know of? There are lots of different like protocols, but you need a protocol. I use Cellcore Biosciences, which is a practitioner only brand. So you need to create an account with my practitioner code, because if you run into any issues with the protocol, they are not going to answer your questions. You need to work through your practitioner, and that's a main one that we use in our Jumpstart protocol, or Transforming Autism. We have a Jumpstart protocol, which is just the first phase, and then we have a longer 12-month protocol, which is kind of a continuation of the Jumpstart. The Jumpstart is just to see, hey, did you see any response with doing this protocol? Jen, is there another way to watch the recording? Okay, Carmen, you got that. Yay. Emily, that's a celebration right there. Indeed. Moscow, is pelvic floor therapy something you suggest? And are they familiar with constipation massage? I don't know. I don't know pelvic floor therapy. It's not something I've explored. Jen, can you put the link to the craniosacral therapy? I don't have anything on craniosacral therapy. So I'm not sure where Christian got that. I don't, it's not my area of expertise. Probably from someone else. Not a quick fix. Yes, Emily. Christian, he's booked in for NAET next week. Yeah, that's helpful. And I do have a client, they've been doing NAET for years on their kids. And I had another client too, NAET on all her kids and stuff. And NMT is faster. You can do all the allergens at once, and you can reset the body in lots of different ways other than just work on one allergen at a time. That's why I did it. I mean, I was a patient, and that's why I got my allergies fixed and my vision spontaneously improved. And I was like, whoa, let's fix the vision some more. So, you know, in several more months, my lens prescription went down by 33% because I would just go in and have NMT, and it would just reset things in my body. Those with diarrhea, Emily, those with diarrhea versus constipation, do you address differently? Well, you have to fix the gut. It's about the gut microbiome. So those that gut healing protocol, mega mucosa, mega IgG, megaspore, Claritherabiotic, those ones are going to help a lot with that. Sorry, did you mention a different one? I didn't catch the letters. Christian, NMT, it's neuromodulation technique. And if you go to my website, let me pull up the site, the NMT on my website directly. And it describes what NMT is and how it works and what I do for that. So, here it is, Christian. I just typed it into the chat. If anybody wants to learn more about NMT, it's very similar to NAET, the natural allergy elimination technique, but it also has it's way more widespread. It's a series of protocols and muscle testing, but it's just you can do anything because you can ask the body anything. All right. Thank you everyone for being here. Awesome questions. Lovely to hear your experiences, especially you, Christian, and Mary. That was interesting. And Emily and people who wrote in the chat. Thank you so much for being here. And next week, we are going to do part 2, where I'm going to dive into some more causes of gut inflammation and how it's connected throughout the body. And we're going to focus on glyphosate and some other things, but it'll be different than today. Okay, and thanks everyone for being here. Awesome. And Carmela just put into the chat, NMT works with the body's own innate intelligence to heal. It's like healing from the inside out. It's giving the body an instruction to do something different and correcting mistakes the body's making. Everyone, you are so welcome. Thank you for being here.